This video will discuss moisture problems, their potential sources, and some of the harmful effects that excess moisture can produce in a home or outside of a home. Specifically, we'll discuss the dangers of moisture in a home, some sources of moisture, and how to spot both interior and exterior moisture problems. One of the most significant dangers posed by moisture is that if it exists for a long period of time, some bad things can happen. It's not hazardous on its own, but when it lingers over time, its effects can be fairly severe. When moisture is introduced for prolonged periods of time, it can result in mold. This can be a very serious health problem in homes. Water and moisture itself can produce damage to the building. It can create damage to appliances. It can make insulation get soaked and not perform properly. It can damage structural elements like wood, and can also deteriorate and cause problems with plumbing and electrical wiring. Moisture can also be an enabler for different types of pests. Some types of termites and other pests that can damage your home require some amount of moisture to be present. It will be important to take a look at different places that water might be coming into a home. Some of these could be roof leaks or ice dams that result in damage to shingles and roofing. Plumbing leaks are also important to spot and are pretty easy to see if you take time to look for them, as well as seepage. Seepage is usually present in older foundation systems that are made of permeable materials like masonry and rock. Concrete and rock masonry are permeable and allow water to seep in over time. This is referred to as capillary seepage. Some of the other sources of water that we will be concerned about are those created from water vapor, which is introduced inside the home and that could condense in places that we don't want it to. It's important to note that humans need a decent amount of humidity to be comfortable. In many cases, we actually introduce moisture into our homes for the purposes of health, as it keeps our sinuses happy and also keeps our breathing more comfortable. Some of the sources of unwanted internal humidity can actually be occupants themselves. When we exhale, we introduce moisture into the air, and if there's a crowded situation, we could raise the humidity level to an unsafe condition. Our showers and bath also introduce moisture, as does cooking in our kitchens. Some of the external sources of moisture that could be introduced are from ambient humidity. In climates that have high relative humidity levels, efforts need to be taken to minimize its impact in homes. Moisture can also diffuse through surfaces from the outside through convection when humid air is allowed to enter the building through cracks and leaks. Ground moisture and water that flows across our yard and into a house can also create a problem, as can a leaky gutter. Moisture can also be seeped into a house, as we said, through foundations and basement floors. Sometimes it's fairly easy to spot moisture problems. In other cases, it might not be as easy, and the immediate problem will take a little bit more detective work. You might not be able to see water itself, but if you can spot a condition that could result in moisture problems, such as water getting in the house on the outside, it would be important to spot that ahead of time and make some recommendations, even if you're not seeing the water problem itself. Be on the lookout for buckets. When people have taken steps to catch a leak or a drip, it's often just a band-aid for a bigger problem, and something that should really be tended to and permanently fixed. In cases like this, you have a good opportunity to ask the homeowner some more questions and demonstrate your curiosity for their understanding of a problem, and also demonstrate some empathy for what is clearly a problem they're experiencing in their home. Outside of a house, one of the most common mistakes people make is not taking care of their gutters. One reason that we have gutters is to catch water and carry it safely away from our homes, and if they're damaged or not installed properly or allowed to clog, it can result in an excess amount of water being dropped right next to our house that can potentially seep back into the house. It's worth asking homeowners what happens when it rains and if there are gutters that they know about that aren't working. You may ask them also if they've ever thought about a rain barrel, which can provide a nice benefit of taking care of your gutters and downspouts. They're increasingly common and can help provide water for gardens, and some of the newer versions even double as planters. It's also important to have a downspout system that takes water far enough away from the perimeter of the home. Equally as important, it'll be important to see that the ground around a home is sloped away from the house so that when water hits the ground, it flows away from the home and not towards it. If this isn't done properly, it can result in some pretty serious problems. If you take a look at this picture, you can see that the slope of the ground is actually back towards the house, and it's causing the foundation wall to begin to settle and collapse. This can be very catastrophic and can be managed very simply by having the ground around the home be properly sloped. We'll be on the lookout for all kinds of potential sources of moisture and unwanted water seepage or leaks on the conditions through the course of home energy assessments.